Whenever you're ready, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Burgess.
Good afternoon.
You spell your first name Shannon with one N. Do I have that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You describe yourself as a digital forensic examiner, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You use the term forensics often in your analysis.
Yes, I do.
And would you agree that generally the accepted definition of forensics is something that relates to, that's used in, and is suitable for a court of law?
Yes, I would.
And so when you're working in forensics, even in your office, you understand that eventually it's very likely that whatever work you're working on is going to end up or could end up in a court of law, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned in your direct examination the scientific method, right?
Correct.
And I was pleased to hear mention of the scientific method. And I just want to cover some principles with regard to the scientific method. But before I do, I just want to see how forensics envelopes in certain items. So forensics applies scientific methods and principles to legal matters, particularly in criminal investigations, right?
Correct.
It's a fair statement.
Yes.
Thank you. And forensics are used to help lawyers in their preparation, correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
And it's used to help judges in courts of law.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's also used to help juries and jurors to understand the results of scientific tests, correct?
Correct.
So you know, and you have to presume that as you are performing your analysis, as I stated earlier, that this information is going to end up in a court of law.
Correct.
And then does that heighten sort of the analysis that you need to do and the sharpness and the accuracy, given that it's going to end up in that form?
It can, depending on context.
And is the primary goal of forensic science to uncover the truth and to provide objective evidence that can be presented in a court?
Yes, it is.
Would you generally agree that the work of forensic science, including the work that you do, is intended to be used in court because scientific evidence can be very powerful and therefore the forensic science must be accurate?
Correct.
It must be methodical.
Correct.
There must be a method, right?
Right.
It must be detailed.
Yes.
And above all, it must be unbiased and truthful, correct?
That is correct.
And all of this, is it fair to say, distills down to reliability?
Correct.
And reliability is a desired characteristic of the forensic scientist.
Yes.
You want people to be able to rely upon your work.
Yes.
And credibility and honesty is part of reliability, and it's a fundamental component of that, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You've stated that you hold your opinions to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. You said that several times on direct, correct?
Correct.
And because the discipline of forensics involves the application of the scientific method, as you stated on direct, you therefore, of course, applied the scientific method throughout your analysis, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you agree with the following statement of the scientific method? And tell me whether, well, let me start with, you understand, you know the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST?
Yes, I am familiar. Yeah.
And would you agree with a definition of the scientific method as the systematic pursuit of knowledge involving the recognition and definition of a problem, the collection of data through observation and experimentation, analysis of the data, the formulation, evaluation, and testing of hypotheses, and where possible, the selection of a final hypothesis? I know there's a lot there, and if you'd like me to break any of it down, you let me know.
No, I find that generally acceptable. Yep.
And I wanted to emphasize the evaluation and testing of hypotheses, and where possible, the selection of a final hypothesis. You understand what I'm meaning by hypotheses?
Yes, I do.
The scientific method is used, among other reasons, is it not, to avoid certain biases in the science process, correct?
Yes, I
Right.
correct.
So the method is trying to prevent a scientist, not cultural bias, but scientific bias, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what the American Academy of Forensic Scientists refer to as cognitive biases in science, generally?
No, I do not.
Have you heard of the term confirmation bias?
Yes, I have heard of that term.
Have you heard of the term anchor bias in the scientific method?
I have not heard that term.
Let's start with confirmation bias. Is a fair definition, and you said you're generally familiar with that, right?
Yes, correct.
So let's start with that. That's the practice of sort of selectively gathering and interpreting evidence to confirm the scientist's belief or a belief of another, and at the same time neglecting evidence that contradicts them. Is that a fair definition of confirmation bias?
Yes.
And an example of confirmation bias is not considering alternative hypotheses once an initial hypothesis has been selected, even though the data and other information might contradict the initial hypothesis. Fair statement?
Yes, that's a fair statement.
And confirmation bias, although sometimes it occurs, is intellectually and analytically antithetical to, it's opposing of the scientific method, correct?
Correct, yes.
And it's to be avoided.
Right.
Anchor bias is, and I know you said you didn't recall it, but let me see if this triggers a recollection. If not, fair enough.
Okay.
Anchor bias is when you prioritize information and data that supports your initial impression of the evidence, even where the impressions are incorrect or it's unknown whether the impression is incorrect. You sort of anchor into that. Does that sound like a reasonable definition of anchor bias?
Yes, that sounds reasonable.
So biases are to be avoided in the application of scientific matters and methods because they can lead to incorrect conclusions in science, right?
Right.
And even though they're to be avoided, you called this case a homicide even before you began your alleged scientific testing. Isn't that correct?
I don't recall. Where would I have called it a homicide?
Do you recall your January 30th, 2025 report that you prepared in this case?
Yes, I do.
Do you have it with you?
I do.
Can you turn to page 4, footnote 3, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It is page 4, footnote 3. And in page 4, footnote 3, it states, I'm sorry, sir, are you there?
Yes, I am sorry.
It says, evidence reviewed by the defense counsel Ray O'Keefe, MV homicide. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Now, you assumed in the very beginning, that Miss Reed had hit Mr. O'Keefe with her car before you began the scientific testing that you had discussed in your direct.
No, that would be incorrect.
But you did list homicide down in footnote 3, correct?
Yes, I did.
And so this report's drafted January 30th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
And the testing, I'll just give you a snapshot, some of the testing you discussed with Mr. Brennan, that testing didn't occur until after this trial started, correct? Some of the testing you described in direct?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, so that testing didn't even occur, and the trial just assume the trial started at April 22nd. So the testing you described when you were talking about aligning clocks and GPS, that occurred after April 22nd, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Now let's go on to another topic. Let's talk about professional credentials. You know what I mean by the term credentials?
Yes, I do.
Professional credentials are important in any profession, correct?
Correct.
And they're important in your forensic examiner profession as well.
Correct.
Your forensic scientists and examiners are no different than any other professional. That credentials are important. And your profession requires you to provide curriculum vitae, laying out your education, training, and background, correct?
Correct.
And it's imperative, is it not, that the information that is disseminated about your professional credentials are absolutely truthful, right?
Yes, they should be.
You say they should be. Let's continue on with that topic. You understand what's meant by the term ethics, right, generally?
Yes. Yes.
And civil ethics mandate that one is truthful about their professional credentials, correct?
Correct.
And a fundamental credential is what type of college degree you hold, correct?
Correct.
People rely on those credentials, and the credentials are the foundation of your expert opinions and analyses, correct?
They can be. Yes.
They can be, and they often are, correct?
Yes, they can be depending on context.
But more often than not, they're important.
Yes, again, depending on context.
You know that not only your colleagues, but your clients, your firm clients, courts, and juries will rely on your CV and your credentials in order to make determinations about whether you're qualified to testify and your depth of your qualifications, correct?
Correct.
You provided the Commonwealth, the defense, and the court with your CV in this case, correct?
Correct.
If I can have a moment, Your Honor, I will
Yes.
get my first exhibits. Your Honor, if I could have this marked as the next exhibit
For identification?
for identification at this point.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm going to have it off. We're going to be eventually offering it into evidence. So,
Okay.
may I present it to the
So
witness?
let's mark it for identification first.
Yep. Okay.
Exhibit TT for identification.
May I present it to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
I am presenting you with exhibit.
TT for identification.
I was, thank you, Your Honor. I'm learning not to talk while I'm walking backwards so Madam Court Reporter can hear me. So I'm presenting you with what is exhibit TT for identification. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
So this document appears to be my CV.
May I approach further?
Yes.
Thank you. And is that CV a document that you have prepared?
Yes, so that is a document that either I have prepared or the company Aperture has prepared.
And is that a fair and accurate document?
It appears to be.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you could just, if Your Honor, if I have the witness hold it, I have some
Hold on,
questions.
let's let it mark first.
Yes. Yep. Mr. Burgess, you have in front of you your CV that we just spoke about, and I'd ask you please to draw your attention to the education section where underneath in red it says BGS, and then, do I read it correctly? It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama Birmingham, Alabama currently pursuing. Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Thank you, sir. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Like this mark is the next for identification only at this point. Oh, excuse me, can I have that back one? Show Mr.
You for ID?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, it's been marked, the document is Exhibit UU for identification. Could you please tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, I do recognize that.
And sir, please describe briefly what that is.
Sure. So it is a CV as well.
Thank you. I would offer it into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Brennan, any objection?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I present it back to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, once you've had a fair opportunity to look at that, I have a question, and that question is simple. Is that your April 2025 CV?
Let me see. Yes, it appears to be.
Thank you. And when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it, when you can just pick your head up, sir, to let me know you're ready. I don't want to rush you, but then I have some questions.
Absolutely.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
So, in those two exhibits, your two CVs in front of you, am I correct that the first one is November 2024 and the second one is April 2025?
Let me see. Yes, that appears to be correct.
In both of those CVs, you indicate that you have not yet earned a bachelor's degree.
That is correct.
And you certainly have not earned a Bachelor of Science degree in any educational field according to those two CVs, right?
Correct.
And in fact, as you sit here today, you do not possess any bachelor's degree.
Correct.
And the reason, as you state, is because that bachelor's degree is currently pending. That's the term you use.
So I use currently pursuing.
Currently pursuing, yes. So you have a public profile that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
Yes, I do.
And it's in the form of a biography page?
Yes, I believe so.
And that biography page has your education listed?
Very possible, yes.
May I approach your own?
Yes.
Thank you. If I could have this mark, please, and once Mr. Brennan reviews it. May I hand it to the witness?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Burgess, giving you Exhibit DB for identification.
Okay.
You recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And indeed, that is the bio page that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
That is what it appears to be, yes.
Now, I would like you, sir, to turn to page 2 of that document.
Okay.
And I'd like to turn your focus to the bottom of education heading. It states, am I correct, sir, BS, Mathematics, and Business Administration. Is that correct?
It does state that, yes.
And there is no qualification if it's currently pending. It states BS in Mathematics and Business Administration, correct?
That's what it states there, yes.
And you do not have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, do you?
No, I do not.
And if you click on the hyperlink for your CV on that same website, do you know where that hyperlink takes you?
No, I do not.
To any member of the public reading this, including prosecutor, a defense attorney, a judge, or a jury, that represents that you received your Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, does it not?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Now, if you continue on to your photograph, are you familiar with Aperture's website that speaks about you and presents you generally?
Vaguely, yes.
Are you aware that Aperture has two hyperlinks, one that says CV and one says LinkedIn? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am now.
And LinkedIn is a professional networking platform designed for career and business professionals to connect, share content, find jobs, etc. Is that a fair description of LinkedIn?
Yes, it is.
And could we also conclude that it's a professional networking platform, especially for private sector firms like Aperture, that's used to attract clients or potential clients?
Yes, correct.
And potential clients include, for example, the Commonwealth of the state of Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
And indeed, the Commonwealth is no longer, if you will, an attracted client, but it's an actual client of Aperture and you, correct?
Correct.
And that's the status of the relationship here. Aperture is a client of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in this case, right?
Correct.
So is it fair to say that your CV, especially when it's published on a LinkedIn or published on a website, is something that is published to intend to have, especially if you're in the private sector, have clients view and retain your services? That's a hope and an expectation, correct?
Yes, that is part of it.
Now, when you look at that document, when you click on, if you were to be in your office, and let's see if you're familiar with this, you click on your LinkedIn on Aperture's page, that would ordinarily take you directly to your professional LinkedIn account, correct? Isn't that what the links are there for?
Yes, I would expect so.
Are you notified when someone electronically accesses your LinkedIn account?
Not accesses, no. Are you referring to viewing?
Yes, that's a better
sorry,
verb,
yeah.
viewing. Yes.
Yes.
So you're notified. Were you notified within the last 72 hours that someone from the defense accessed your publicly available or viewed your publicly available LinkedIn account?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that within the last 72 hours that hyperlink on Aperture's official website was disabled?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that now if you try to go on that link that you can't, that it's disabled?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Do you know whether anyone from Aperture directed someone within Aperture to disable your LinkedIn account within the last 72 hours?
No, I'm not.
Have you spoken to anybody at Aperture about your LinkedIn account?
No, I have not.
And we are done with those, so if I could ask those back to you.
Absolutely.
Your Honor, could I have please the next one marked for identification of this one?
Yes.
Thank you. May I present to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess, I presented to you what is marked as Exhibit WW for identification. I'd ask that you take a look at it, take a fair amount of time, and then if you could, sir, pick your head up so I could see that you're ready.
Sure. Okay.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, it appears to be a screenshot of my LinkedIn account.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. I am presenting to you what has been marked as Exhibit WW for identification. That is that a fair and accurate representation of your personal LinkedIn page? If you could take a moment to take a look at it.
Sure.
Mr. Wilson, I'm going to step back so all the jurors can see that.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Yes, it does with a error on page 2 regarding education.
Right, and we're going to get to that.
Sure.
But this is you recognize this as a fair and accurate depiction of your personal LinkedIn page with the exception of what you just mentioned, correct?
Correct.
Did you draft that document that's represented as Exhibit WW?
I have drafted that over time, yes.
And when was the last time you viewed that document on your LinkedIn page?
I don't typically view the profile page, so it would have been, I could not tell you how long it's been.
Do you have any reason to believe that that Exhibit WW is not on your LinkedIn page online as we sit here today?
No, I don't.
Your Honor, I move Exhibit WW into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibit 186.
Thank you.
I would like to turn your attention to your the printout of your personal LinkedIn page and go right to the second page, bottom. And under education, it says University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's got a little UAB acronym there. And it says Bachelor of Science, B period, S period, comma, Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation, 2016-2018. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, I do.
That's not correct, is it?
No, it's not correct.
And you do not hold a BS in a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, do you?
I do not, and that would have been at that time an expected graduation date?
So it would be expected, you state.
Correct.
It would be another word currently pursuing? Is that similar to expecting?
Sure, that could be similar.
But you know how to put currently pursuing down, don't you, sir? Because you did it on the first few CVs, but you don't have it on your LinkedIn page. Am I correct?
Correct. That's probably because obviously that has not been updated in quite some time.
And you said you get notifications when people access your LinkedIn page, correct?
I get selective notifications when people view my LinkedIn page.
So you know people are looking at your LinkedIn page, you know people are looking at your education, and you have down here 2016 to 2018. So that time period is 7 years old from 2018, yet you use the 2016 to 2018 on your LinkedIn page, correct?
Correct. With the caveat that my understanding is people look at your post, not specifically the profile information.
Oh, so you believe you know apparently when people are looking at it and what they look at?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally.
Generally.
Correct.
But you don't know who's looking at the education section on your LinkedIn page and relying upon what is represented here, that you have a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Not from the LinkedIn page. Yeah, just independently of the LinkedIn page, yes. look at your post, not specifically the profile information.
Oh, so you believe you know apparently when people are looking at it and what they look at?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally.
Generally.
Correct.
But you don't know who's looking at the education section on your LinkedIn page and relying upon what is represented here, that you have a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Not from the LinkedIn page. Yeah, just independently of the LinkedIn page, yes.
And as you sit here today, that page is still live on your LinkedIn, correct?
Correct.
So a key aspect of your credentials, whether or not you have obtained a Bachelor of Science, is incorrect in more than one document that I've presented here today, correct?
No, I would not agree with that.
Well, it's incorrect in this one, correct?
Correct.
And the one previously to that, there's two documents that have you listed. This LinkedIn, may I approach your honor?
Yes.
Thank you. So there's two documents, is there not, sir? There's, may I?
Sure.
Thank you. And then, if I can have the previous LinkedIn evidence? So if you could hold that, this one, sir, and I'm going to take that my quick thumb. Thank you. And Exhibit 185 that's in evidence, if you can turn to the second page. So if you look at each of those state that you have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. So there are two documents about your credentials that are inaccurate, correct?
Yes, they have errors. Yes, that is correct.
May I have those back,
Sure.
sir?
Yep, both.
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
Okay, approach your honor.
Yes.
I have the next document marked for identification. Only at this point, you'll have this marked as the next for identification.
Okay.
Thank you.
XX lady.
Now hand it to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. Handing the witness Exhibit XX for identification. Do you recognize that document, sir?
So it appears to be a CV, yes.
You say it appears to be a CV. Can you describe that any further?
Yes, so it's a copy of my CV.
Is that a CV you prepared, sir?
It would have been prepared by myself or Aperture, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end.
Sorry, it would have been prepared by myself or Aperture, yes.
Yourself or Aperture?
Correct.
But you had, at a minimum, a role in preparing that, did you not?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, and you would have reviewed that, because it's about you, before it would have been used by Aperture, correct?
More than likely, yes.
You wouldn't let somebody put a CV up and out to the public without you reviewing it, would you, sir?
So there are other staff members that do review and update CVs.
But you're the only one who's going to know whether what's on it is accurate or not, correct?
Unless I explain that to them, yes.
So either way, either you prepared it yourself or you interacted with somebody and explained it and collaborated with them to make sure it was right to the best of your ability, correct?
Correct.
If you can look at the highlighted portion, sir, under education.
There's no well, I understand
sorry.
what you're talking about. There's no highlighted portion.
I'm sorry, let's strike that. If you look under education, the first line, it says in the right underneath BGS. Do you see that, sir?
I do, yes.
And then to the right, it says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama - Birmingham, Alabama, 2022. Did I read that correct?
Yes, you did.
And up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a photograph.
Yes, there is.
Is that you, sir, in the photograph?
Yes, it is.
And in the spelling of your name, Shannon, that's with one N, correct?
Correct, yes.
And so that is not only you in the photograph, that's the spelling of your name with one N, correct?
Correct.
And that's the correct spelling of your first name with one N, correct?
Yes, it
So
is.
that's definitely you represented in this document, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now let's look at the first line that relates to education. It states Bachelor's of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, correct?
That is what it states, yes.
And the date is 2022, correct?
Correct.
So this document represents that you received your Bachelor's of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration in 2022, correct?
That is what it states, but there are a number of errors in that, yes.
Correct. So let's go on. So this is the third example, am I correct, sir? Well, let me, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I offer Exhibit XX into evidence.
No objection.
Okay.
Sir, is Exhibit 187 a CV that is linked directly from Aperture's website?
I do not know. I would have to look and check that.
So as you sit here today, you are not able to state whether that CV is linked directly from Aperture's website?
Correct.
So this is a third example of a document that incorrectly states that you have a Bachelor of Science when you do not possess that degree, correct?
It has errors or outdated information, correct?
Well, when you say outdated, how is it that you can call a date outdated next to something that you don't possess?
I don't understand your question.
Well, you just used the phrase either incorrect or outdated. I'm trying to understand your statement that it's
Sure. So,
outdated. Isn't it either you have a Bachelor of Science degree or you don't? Isn't?
I have represented I do not have a bachelor's degree.
But in here, it's represented that you do, correct?
Yes, it is
All
an
right.
error, yes.
So, let's look at what the name is that are on these documents. It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. Do you see that, sir?
I do.
Are you aware that there's no degree at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, called a Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration?
Yes, I am. And that is one of the errors I identified.
So you would agree that there's not even a degree called Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration offered at the University of Alabama, correct?
Correct. That should be Bachelor of General Studies with minor in Mathematics and Business Administration.
And what you just articulated, you do not possess, as you sit here today, correct?
That is correct.
What you possess is an associate's degree, correct?
Correct.
And when did you obtain that associate's degree?
So that would have been 2015.
Are you familiar with the term mendacity?
I am not.
Are you familiar with a CV of 2015?
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have this marked as the next exhibit for identification, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
YYID.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
No, I do not recognize this document.
May I put your Honor?
Yes.
Sure.
Do you recall ever pursuing, may I stand here and ask some questions, Your Honor?
Okay. I mean, did he see the document as well, or do you have a copy for him?
You can see it as well, Your Honor.
I was just wondering the purpose.
Yeah, sure.
and just step back, Mr. Wilson.
Sir, do you recall when you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree of any kind?
Sure, I do, around 2008.
So you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science for the first time in 2008, correct?
Correct.
If I did the math correctly, sir, you've been pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree for 17 years, correct?
That is correct.
And you have not obtained it as you sit here today.
That is correct.
And yet there are the various documents that we've seen that state that you have obtained the Bachelor of Science, correct?
Again, with errors or misinterpretation. Yes.
Errors and misinterpretation that are you stating, but you would agree those errors or misinterpretation have been in existence for some time, correct?
Yes, I'm being made aware of them now, yes.
Yeah, and they haven't been corrected for some time, correct?
Correct.
You work for insurance companies, correct?
I do work for insurance companies in addition to law firms, yes.
But you work for insurance companies, correct?
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Well, you state that right in your report in this case, don't you, sir? That you work for insurance companies?
Again, I do work for insurance companies, yes.
And what role do you play in working for insurance companies? You working for them, or are you working for the policyholders that have paid premiums or are making a claim to try to get money from an insurance company? Which role do you have?
Objection.
I'll allow them.
So I work for the insurance company themselves.
And in your work for the insurance company, has any of that work related to denying claims to insurance?
Objection.
Why don't I see you on this, Mr. Wilson?
Sure. Mayor, Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. Are you familiar with the phrase academic dishonesty?
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about your work on this case. In October of 2024, the Commonwealth hired you to perform a new data acquisition from the infotainment and telematics system of Ms. Reed's Lexus SUV, correct?
That is correct.
And in your October 10, 2024 report, you outlined a proposal for attempting to extract additional data from the telematics and infotainment modules, correct?
Correct. With the caveat, it's not a report, it is a proposed protocol.
So we'll call it a proposal. In that proposal, you explain why, in your opinion, you believed an additional data acquisition was necessary based on your, in your words, education, training, and background, correct?
That is correct.
And when you prepared your proposal, you had access to the manufacturing specifications of the chips in question, correct?
I did.
You were under no critical deadlines to get the work done, correct?
Correct.
In your initial October 10, 2024 report, you explained that you believed the data acquisition was incomplete because, in your opinion, based on your education, again, your words, training, and experience, the download of the acquisition was less than the chip's storage capacity, correct?
That is correct.
And converting megabytes, B-Y-T-E-S, to megabits, B-I-T-S, and gigabytes to gigabits is a basic digital forensic concept, and that concept's critical to successful data acquisition and analysis. Fair statement?
I would say that's a fair statement.
In your initial report, you stated that the December 2023 data acquisition was from the Spansion clip, S-P-A-N-S-I-O-N, from the infotainment model was incomplete because the acquisition was only 8 megabytes in size, even though the chip has a storage capacity of 64 megabytes, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol.
I'm sorry, was it proposal or protocol?
Protocol.
Protocol?
It is a protocol.
We'll use protocol. And you blame this on the, quote, programmer's inability to fully read the component, close quote, correct?
Correct.
In point of fact, the manufacturing specifications establish that the total flash memory component of the chips in question is equal to 64 megabits, not 64 megabytes, correct?
That is correct.
64 megabits is 8 megabytes, correct?
That is correct.
That means the expansion chip was not incomplete, correct?
Correct.
The acquisition was the same data size as the total memory storage capacity of the chip, correct?
Correct.
Your protocol for data acquisition was based on a misunderstanding of megabits versus megabytes, correct?
It was based on a working theory and a misinterpretation, yes.
And that was your misinterpretation.
Yes, it was.
You mentioned Ms. Gaffney in your direct testimony. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, I do.
She successfully acquired 8 megabytes of data from that expansion chip during the December 2023 chip-off, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that wasn't your only conversion mistake in your October 10, 2024 report, was it?
I'm not aware of any others.
You stated in your report that the data acquisition of the Micron JWB57 was incomplete because the acquisition was only 540 MB in size, but the storage capacity was 4 GB, and that's stated in your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol, yes,
Protocol.
correct.
The Micron JWB57 chip is 4 gigabits flash memory component, not a 4 gigabyte flash memory component, as you incorrectly stated in your protocol.
That is correct.
So contrary to your assertion in the report, 4 gigabits is equal to 50 megabytes, which suggests that all the available data was successfully retrieved from this chip during the first acquisition by Ms. Gaffney, correct?
Correct.
So Ms. Gaffney was not in error on that. She did not make a mistake on that, correct?
Not on that specific thing, yes.
Right. It was you that simply misunderstood the difference between gigabits and gigabytes, correct?
Misinterpreted, I would not say misunderstood.
You misinterpreted the difference between gigabits and gigabytes.
Correct, at that
You
time.
got
yes.
that wrong in layperson's terms.
Correct, I did make an error.
You stated in your report that Micron, and I'm going to have to give an alphanumeric number because I know in digital forensics it's important to be precise and accurate, so bear with me, sir. You stated in your report that the Micron 29F2G08 ABAEA is a 2 gigabyte chip, and that the acquisition should have been 2 gigabytes, but was incomplete because it was only 264 MB in size, correct?
That is correct.
And the Micron, and I'm just going to refer back to the number to not repeat it, the long alphanumeric number, is a 2 gigabit flash memory component, not a 2 gigabyte flash memory component, as you incorrectly stated in your protocol, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So 2 gigabytes is equal to 250 megabytes, correct?
Correct.
And that suggests that all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition by Ms. Gaffney, correct?
From those chips, yes.
From those chips.
Correct.
I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Your opinion was again incorrect and was based on a misunderstanding of gigabits and gigabytes, correct?
A misinterpretation, correct?
A misinterpretation in layperson's terms, you got that wrong also.
It was an error, yes.
Did you have that protocol peer reviewed, sir?
No, I did not.
Was it peer reviewed by anybody at Aperture?
No, it was not.
Did you have a supervisor review that protocol before you filed it with the court?
No, sir.
You submitted your proposal based on your education, background, and experience, correct?
Correct.
Turns out that the entire foundation of your proposal was based on a fundamental misinterpretation of the difference between a computer bit and a computer byte, correct?
No, not the entire thing, no.
Well, certainly a part of it was, correct, sir?
Correct, partial.
You got conversions wrong with respect to analyzing 3 different chips, correct?
Correct.
And since you wrote that, have you learned the difference between a bit and a byte?
I've always known the difference between a bit and a byte, yes.
You learned that, in this case, from reading the affidavit of an expert for the defense who pointed out those errors before you submitted your supplemental report. Isn't that correct?
I would have to go back and look at the timing on that. I believe I submitted the supplemental before the protocol from the other expert.
Are you certain of that?
I'm not certain of that.
Isn't it the case that the expert for the defense submitted his affidavit before you submitted your supplemental report?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I do not know that.
You don't know one way or another.
Correct.
And that person that I've referred to for the defense is Matthew DeSogra. You know that name?
I do.
And you have read Mr. DeSogra's affidavit in this case, have you not, sir?
I have, yes.
And you would agree that he pointed out these misinterpretations of yours in his affidavit, correct?
Correct.
I would like to go back to your January 30th, 2025 report. In your January 30th, 2025 report, you know which one I'm referring to, sir?
Yes, I do.
Am I correct that you indicated that at the time of this, quote, incident, Burla did not offer support for the infotainment and telematics modules removed from the Lexus, but have since released updated software according to similar modules that are supported by in-vehicle acquisition?
That is correct.
And the infotainment module that was removed from Ms. Reed's Lexus is consistent with the MMU, you know what I'm referring to in the MMU?
Right.
It's consistent with the MMU documented by Burla and has been identified as containing an internal micro SD card not acquired during the initial chip-off acquisition by Mrs. Gaffney. You remember that statement in the report, sir?
I do, yes.
You obtained no additional information from the chips that were already analyzed by Ms. Gaffney, did you?
Correct.
Correct that you obtained no additional information, right?
No data of value from those chips, yes.
No data of value. So all the data of value Ms. Gaffney had already obtained from those chips, correct?
That's kind of a confusing question. So there was no data of value from those chips to begin with.
Fair enough.
Right.
So Ms. Gaffney didn't miss anything of value.
Correct.
Fair?
Correct.
Do you know how much the Commonwealth has paid Aperture to date for doing the work in this case?
I do not.
Do you have any involvement at all in knowing what the contract is between Aperture and the Commonwealth?
I do not.
Have you ever had any discussions with any colleagues from Aperture with regard to how much Aperture has been paid in this case?
No, I have not.
Do you have an estimation as to how much Aperture has been paid in this case?
Not off the top of my head, I do not.
You've never had any discussion with anybody at Aperture about the fees Aperture has charged the Commonwealth in this case?
No, I have not.
Who in Aperture is in charge of knowing how much fees Aperture has charged the Commonwealth?
That would be the accounting department,
Would Dr. Judson Welcher know?
potentially.
Your analysis, I want to move on to another category, sir. Your analysis in this case was not strictly limited to data and science, was it?
No, it was strictly limited to data and science.
The Commonwealth requested that you review numerous materials in connection with your analysis in this case, correct?
I did review materials, yes.
You did not review the January 29, 2022 CARS report well, let me put it this way. Did you review the January 29, 2022 CARS report prepared by Trooper Paul?
No, I did not.
Do you know what a CARS report is?
I do not.
Do you know that a CARS report was prepared by Trooper Paul for this case?
No, I do not.
If there was a collision analysis and reconstruction report prepared by a trooper in that case, would you want to see a document such as that?
No, not for my analysis.
Would somebody at Aperture want to see that document?
Objection.
I'll reword. Are you familiar with collision analysis and reconstruction reports prepared by law enforcement agencies?
I am vaguely familiar, yes.
Vaguely familiar? Have you ever used one in your analysis at all?
I have seen them, yes.
You've seen them. And my question is, seeing them, have you ever read any of them?
Yes, I have read them. Yes.
Have you ever considered a collision analysis and reconstruction report as part of the work that you do at Aperture?
Not specifically a collision analysis report from law enforcement. We do routinely see crash reports, but I think what you're referring to is something else.
Are you aware of a supplemental collision analysis and reconstruction report of Trooper Paul of the Massachusetts State Police dated July 24, 2024?
No, I'm not.
Do you know whether Trooper Paul is part of the Massachusetts State Police reconstruction team?
I do not.
And lastly, do you know whether he's part of the reconstruction team in this case?
I do not.
Did anybody tell you to avoid reviewing a collision analysis and reconstruction report in this case?
No, they did not.
You did, however, review the 2024 testimony of Trooper Nicholas Guarino in the proceeding of last year, didn't you?
I did for specific data, yes.
So that's not really science and data, is it? It's testimony.
Yes, it is testimony.
So you did review materials in this case beyond science and data, correct? You reviewed testimony.
Sure, that is common, yes.
Having reviewed Trooper Guarino's testimony, you therefore are aware of the theory that he proposed in the first proceeding, correct? It was in his testimony?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
I'm not. So specifically, I reviewed Trooper Guarino's testimony for information related to the infotainment and telematics modules.
So did you read all of the testimony?
No, I would have skimmed it.
You would have skimmed the testimony?
Correct.
And how would you, and what would be the purpose to just skim it?
Sure. So I'm only interested in the information related to the infotainment and telematics modules.
So I want to make sure I have this right. So you would skim it you would look for what you want to focus on, and you, as you sit here today, you don't have any recollection of what the theory of the Commonwealth was in the first proceeding?
Not from that testimony, no.
Do you recall Trooper Garino as part of what you reviewed? So you reviewed certain things of Trooper Garino in his testimony, correct?
Correct.
And in your direct testimony, you testified extensively about the iPhone of John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And you looked at and testified about a lot of information from the phone of John O'Keefe. Is that a fair statement?
Location data.
Location data. Did you read, therefore, Trooper Garino's claim that the last...
Objection.
So why don't I see it sidebar and find out what
Sure. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I will show this to Mr. Brennan first, and then if the court would like to see it, we've got another...
That's, thank you.
May I have this marked as the next exhibit for identification, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
No worries.
Easy, driving.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you what has been marked as Exhibit ZZ for identification. Ask you to take a moment to look at it, please, when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it. If you could pick your head up, sir, and I'll proceed at that time.
Okay.
So I'm going to just ask one predicate question and then ask you another question.
Sure.
Does Exhibit ZZ contain, and if you just answer this yes or no, that would be great. Does it contain location, data, information? Okay.
I'll allow that without pursuing
That's
it.
the only one I have for that purpose.
Okay.
Does it, sir?
Yes, it does.
Did you consider this part of Trooper Garino's testimony in any review that you've done in this case?
No, I did not.
On December, we're going to move on now to another topic, sir. On December 5th, 2024, Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, you know that name, sir?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that name?
So he is the one who hand-delivered the infotainment and telematics module to our office in South Lake.
Exactly. So he delivered the infotainment module containing the SD card that you talked about on direct examination, so that you could attempt to reinstall it in Miss Reed's vehicle for an in-vehicle acquisition attempt, correct?
That was part of it, yes.
That was part of it.
Correct.
That day you initially attempted an in-vehicle acquisition, meaning you reconnected the infotainment module to the faceplate in Miss Reed's vehicle and reinstalled both the infotainment and the telematics module for an in-vehicle unlock and acquisition, correct?
That was an attempt, yes, on December 7th, for clarification.
And that was on December 7th.
Correct.
And that was December 7th of 2024.
Correct.
You conducted this same testing on an exemplar vehicle, and to be clear, exemplar was a vehicle that Aperture had purchased.
Yes, that is a vehicle that Aperture has purchased.
So Aperture purchased it, and it's a vehicle, as I understand, you testified, that's similar to the vehicle of Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And so you call it an exemplar because it's similar to the vehicle in question, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So I'm going to continue using your parlance of exemplar vehicle.
Sure.
And so you conducted this same testing on the exemplar vehicle and successfully reinstalled and tested the infotainment and telematics systems for an in-vehicle unlock and acquisition, correct?
For an in-vehicle acquisition, not for an unlock.
Okay, so for just an in-vehicle acquisition.
Correct.
I appreciate the correction, sir. But in this case, with Miss Reed's actual Lexus, you were unable to successfully reinstall and test the infotainment and telematics systems, correct?
Correct.
On this Reed's Lexus, you were able to get the infotainment backlight and faceplate to illuminate, but in your own words, the infotainment system did not respond as expected, correct?
Correct.
So instead, you took the micro SD card itself and attempted to retrieve data from that card directly, correct?
Correct.
Lexus locks cards in its system, correct?
It does, yes.
If Lexus thought it was appropriate to access those cards, do you know whether or not they would have them unlocked? Do you know?
I do not know.
Now,
I'm going to let the answers.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to cover a basic question. Do you have any citation to any scientific literature where specifically what you did on this Lexus model has ever done before? Has it ever been done before, do you know?
No, not on this specific model, which is why we did the exemplar testing.
Right. So there's no scientific literature that states that the methodology that you used with this Lexus model is an appropriate methodology at all, correct?
There is literature that addresses the methodology in other ways, but not specific to this Lexus, correct?
There's no literature at all stating that the methodology that you used for this Lexus is the appropriate methodology to use for this Lexus model, correct?
There's no literature about this appropriate Lexus model, correct?
Let's talk about your initial report of January 30th of 2025. You issued your initial analysis and report on January 30th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
Your report included a general timeline analysis. You used that phrase, timeline analysis, that you stated could impact, quote, event reconstruction. Do I have that right? Your January 30th, 2025 report does not discuss a collision, does it?
No, not in my report, no.
As a matter of fact, your January 30th, 2025 report doesn't even use the word collision, does it?
Correct, because I'm looking at data from the infotainment and telematics module.
But the report of January 30th, 2025 does not even contain the word collision in it, correct?
I believe it does in the background portion, which would be on page 2 or 3, which would just be restating the, if you'd mind if I can look at my report?
Oh, please.
Sure. No, so I apologize. The word that was used was incident.
Right.
Correct.
But you don't use the word collision at all in your January 30th, 2025 report.
That is correct.
I appreciate you checking that, sir. Also, and please keep your report handy,
Sure.
your January 30th, 2025 report does not in any way detail the timing of what you now call a text stream event at all, correct?
No, it does not.
So in your January 30th, 2025 report, you refer to it as an incident, and in your May 8th report, you refer to it as a text stream event, correct?
That would be referring to two different things.
Right, right. But did you use the parlance text stream event at all in your January 30th, 2025 report?
No, I did not.
But you're using it now, correct?
Correct.
And we're talking about the same event, right?
Correct.
In fact, your analysis and conclusions were limited in your January 30th, 2025 report to generally identifying a clock skew between Mr. O'Keefe's phone and Miss Reed's infotainment system, correct?
That is correct.
On January 30th, 2025, you engaged in no further analysis to determine whether precisely the 1162.2 text stream event that you now call it occurred, correct?
Correct.
Why not?
I was not asked to at that time. I was just asked to look at the general timeline and consistency of the timestamps.
So, back in January 30th, 2025, you were not asked to engage in analysis to determine when precisely the 1162.2 text stream event occurred. Is that fair?
That is fair, and that is based on the common concept that, a lot of cases that we work, there is clock skew, but we do not have events to precisely determine what that clock skew is.
Understood. So, wasn't your goal, however, on January 30th, 2025, to determine the correct timeline of events relative to this incident? Wasn't that your goal?
It was my goal to determine the data from the infotainment and telematics modules that were missed in the initial download and create a timeline and consistency of those timestamps.
So, your goal was to create a timeline, correct?
Correct.
And that timeline, among other uses, was to be for your colleague, Dr. Judson Welcher, to use that in his analysis, correct?
That is correct.
So you knew not only what your purpose was, but you knew what your work was going to be used for by Dr. Welcher, your colleague, correct?
Well, I knew it was going to be provided, yes.
Well, you knew it was going to be provided. Have you ever talked to Judson Welcher, your colleague, about this case at all?
I have vaguely, yes.
How many times have you talked to him?
I would count a handful of times.
And just give me a general idea of the nature of the discussions between you and Dr. Welcher. You're both working on the same, quote, incident, right?
Sure. Yes.
What would have been the nature of those discussions?
So those discussions would have been identifying what I found on the infotainment and telematics modules, and a discussion, explaining that data to Dr. Welcher.
So, did Dr. Welcher ever tell you, your colleague, why he wanted to use that data for his purposes?
For reconstructing a timeline.
And for reconstructing a timeline and picking a time for what you now call a text stream event, correct? You knew that's what he was doing.
Correct, for a timeline, yes.
Right, so you knew that for the 1162.2 text stream event, he was going to use your analysis back in January of 2025 to try to pinpoint that text stream event 1162.2, correct?
That is correct.
You knew that.
Yes.
And you know that he used that data to select a specific range for that text stream 1162.2 text stream event, correct?
I don't know if select would be the right. I understand what you're saying, yes.
What term would you use?
Sure. So based on the data, he's identifying the time approximately when that event would have occurred.
And that text stream event, that 1162.2, is what Aperture is contending is a time of a collision. Is that correct?
That's sustained on that. Ask it differently, Mr. Lewis.
Do you know the purpose of the 1162.2 text stream event in the analysis performed by your firm?
No, Dr. Welcher, I do not.
So you performed your analysis in all these timelines that you talked about on direct without knowing what Dr. Welcher was going to do with that data?
No, so sorry, I misspoke. So it would be to timeline the time and date, or to put a time and date with when that text stream trigger would have occurred.
Exactly.
Right.
So you knew what the purpose was of your work
Correct.
with regard to Dr. Welcher's work.
Correct.
And isn't Dr. Welcher's work on the 1162.1 and the 1162.2 text stream event an important aspect of the work of Aperture in this case?
Yes, it is.
Did anybody from the Commonwealth ask you in your January 30th, 2020-25 report to not discuss your work in connection with the text stream 1162.1 and the 1162.2 events?
No.
But you didn't discuss that, meaning the 1162.1 and 1162.2 events, in your first report in January 30th, did you?
That was not part of my report, correct?
But you did delve into that, and pretty heavily, in your May 8th report, correct?
Correct.
And you delved into that pretty heavily in the middle of this trial, correct?
Correct.
So after the trial, you know the trial started around April 22nd in this case?
Yes,
Generally?
yes, generally.
So let's do the timeline on this. January 30th, 2025, you prepare your initial report, correct?
Correct.
In that initial report, you mentioned nothing about text stream event 1162.1, correct?
Correct.
In that report, you mentioned nothing about text stream event 1162.2, correct?
Correct.
The trial starts April 22nd, correct?
Correct.
Roughly.
Generally.
No, the trial in this case, this trial, about April 22nd, after the trial starts and after witnesses, of course, are appearing, you prepare another report, correct?
Correct.
And that's your May 8th report,
Correct.
right in the middle of this trial.
Correct.
And right in the middle of this trial, you enlarge the number for the 21 to 29 range. That's bigger than what it was in your first report, correct?
No, that is not correct.
Well, you changed the number, don't you?
No, I did not change the number.
Well, let's go back to see exactly what you did, sir.
Sure.
Let's start with the basics. You said on direct examination, sir, that you prepared your May 8th report on your own. Those were your words on your direct testimony, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to read the first line of your May 8th, 2025 report.
Okay.
Do you have it in front of you, sir?
I do. Yes.
It starts, Dear Mr. Brennan. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Pursuant to your request. That's the request you're referring to of Mr. Brennan, correct?
Correct.
I have completed an additional analysis concerning the above referenced matter. To formulate opinions, the following additional items were reviewed. This wasn't done on your initiative. You put in writing you did it at the request of Mr. Brennan. Which is it?
So that was on my own initiative. This is a holdover, so a copy and paste from my original report.
You're explaining the May 8th report in your language pursuant to your request as a cut and paste from a previous report?
Yes, I am.
Do you cut and paste important information from one report to the other without checking it for accuracy?
I copy and paste certain portions.
Do you ever review what you cut and paste to see if it's accurate?
Yes.
You didn't review it this time, though, did you, sir?
No, I did not think it was significant.
Oh, you don't think it's significant, sir, that the matter is in the middle of a trial and there's a request for a new report after testimony has occurred in that trial? You don't think that's important?
Objection. Sustained.
Why did you prepare the new report then?
Sure. So there was a claim from a PowerPoint presentation by Mr. DeSogra of trying to adjust clock syncs or making clock adjustments based on the synchronization of certain events. That was produced in March. Upon reviewing that, my initial thoughts were to address that in testimony, but as I was preparing for trial, I made the decision that it needed to be better addressed in a supplemental report.
But you understand that the report that you're referring to, that's the report of Mr. Soger, correct?
It is a presentation of Mr. DeSoger.
It's
Correct.
a presentation. You understand his presentation merely was responding to the work that you did, correct?
No, that's not correct.
So your belief is that Mr. DeSoger's report didn't address at all what you had done?
Partially, yes, but no.
Okay, but let's cover the basics. You agree that Mr. DeSoger addressed, at least in part, the work that you had done?
He tried to address, yes.
Right. So do you know the date of Mr. DeSoger's report as March 5th? Does that sound right to you?
Yes, that's what
So
I said.
you had Mr. DeSoger's report that you claim was the basis for you on your own in the middle of this trial, creating and submitting a new report. You claim that the basis for that was Mr. DeSoger's report of March 5th of 2025.
That is correct.
You waited 2 months to do that.
Again, my initial thoughts were to address it on testimony.
Here's not your thoughts. Did you wait 2 months?
Just let him finish the answer.
My question, sir, finish it how you want.
Sure. So
2 months, was it 2 months between March 5th and when you submitted your report on May 8th? Was that 2 months?
yes, it is.
So, did you know when this trial was going to start, sir? Generally?
Yes.
Do you think it's fair to submit a report without anybody asking you in the middle of a trial?
Sustained.
As we've been discussing, you issued a brand new report, in this case dated May 8th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
That changed your analysis, correct?
No, it did not change my analysis.
Were there changes to your analysis in it?
There were clarifications.
Clarifications.
Correct.
Let's address that. In your January 30th, 2025 report, you did not mention tech stream event at all, did you?
No, I did not.
And you didn't mention collision at all, correct?
No, I did not.
And you mentioned both of those now in your May 8th, 2025 report, correct?
I don't know if I mentioned collision. I'd have to go to my report and look.
But you certainly do mention tech stream events, correct?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
And you labeled them 1162.1 and 1162.2, correct?
Correct.
That's a change from your first report, isn't it, sir?
No, it's not a change. It's a supplement.
Oh, so your definition is that when you add something to a report, it's not a change, it's a supplement?
That is what it is, yes.
Who did you speak to regarding the May 8th, 2025 report before you prepared it?
And no one before I prepared it.
So you just prepared it on your own?
I did.
Did you have any communications at all? I asked you who you spoke with, but did you have any communications at all with either Detective Lieutenant Tully or Buchanan?
So I did reach out to Tully to get a full set of the location data, yes.
So you reached out to Detective Tully before you prepared your May 8th report, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Did he tell you that the trial had started in this case?
No, not during that conversation, no.
That's not the first communication you had with Detective Tully, was it?
No, it's not.
How many conversations have you had with Detective Tully?
I would say a handful.
How much is a handful?
I would be speculating, but we'll say 5 to 10.
5 to 10.
Sure.
Is Detective Tully expert at all in digital forensics?
No.
But you've had 5 to 10 conversations with him.
Correct. To get provided information.
At any time, has anybody from the Commonwealth had a discussion with you relative to your January 30th, 2025 report or your May 8th, 2025 report about keeping flexible the timelines for any events in this case?
No, sir.
Did you have any discussions at all regarding the May 8th, 2025 report you prepared in the middle of this trial with anyone from the district attorney's office?
Yes.
When did you have those discussions?
That would have been on, probably May 7th when I reached out to Mr. Brennan.
So you reached out to Mr. Brennan on May 7th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
That's before May 8th of 2025, correct?
Correct.
So before you sent that report in, you had a discussion with Mr. Brennan about it, am I correct?
Correct.
What was that discussion about?
That was just a discussion over the data and what the report said.
So you were discussing with Mr. Brennan what was going to be in your report, including data and analysis, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell Mr. Brennan that you were going to be submitting the report shortly to him on May 8th?
Yes.
Did you agree to a time when you would submit that report?
No, I did not.
Did you tell him when you were going to submit it?
No, I did not.
But after the conversation on May 7th, didn't you discuss with him that you had either pretty close to finalize the report? It's a pretty extensive report, right?
Correct.
So on May 7th, you were pretty well along the way in that report, correct?
Correct.
Did you let Mr. Brennan know that?
Yes.
So he knew the nature of the report, he knew how far along you were with it.
Correct.
Did you have any other calls with anybody from the prosecution's office other than that about your May 8th report?
No, I don't believe so.
Did you have any texts with anybody about your May 8th report?
No.
Did you communicate with anybody else about your upcoming May 8th report?
No, I would have provided a copy to Dr. Welcher.
Your colleague?
Correct.
So Dr. Welcher knew you were working on this report, correct?
He knew I submitted the report. I don't know if he knew I was working on the report.
Did he know you were going to submit the report before you submitted it?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Did he know what was going to be in the report?
Yes, he did.
Did he support the fact that you were going to submit a report in the middle of trial?
I can't speak for Dr. Welcher.
But he knew you were going to do it.
Correct.
Did he say anything, don't do that? Or did he have any comment about the fact you were going to submit it?
Not that I recall off the top of my head.
Not that you recall, so is it possible he did comment on whether you should submit it in the middle of trial?
No, he would not have commented on whether I should have submitted it or not.
How many times in your career, sir, have you submitted a supplemental or amended report in the middle of trial?
This would be the only one that I recall.
So this is the only time. How many years have you been doing this?
Approximately 10 years.
And so approximately 10 years, this is the first time you've submitted a amended supplemental report in the middle of a trial.
A supplemental report, correct.
As you call it, a supplemental report in the middle of trial.
Correct.
Do you know a person by the name of Ian Whiffen?
Yes, I'm familiar with the name.
You say you're familiar with the name. Are you more than familiar with his name? Are you familiar with his work?
I'm familiar with his report in this case, yes.
So you're familiar with his work if you're familiar with his report, correct?
Correct.
Were you given do you know that Mr. Whiffen has testified in this trial?
No, I do not.
And with regard to Mr. Whiffen's report, did you read it?
Yes, I did read his report.
And that would be of interest to you, correct? That's why you read it?
Correct.
Because Mr. Whiffen report, and are we talking about Mr. Whiffin's January 2025 report or his March 2025 report? Are you aware there's two of them?
No, I'm not.
Do you know which one you're referring to?
That would be the January report.
So the January 2025 report, are you aware that there's just a couple minor differences between the two reports, or you're just not aware of it?
I'm not aware of either way.
Assume there's very minor differences with the reports. Mr. Whiffin's reports contain information and some detailed, they're long reports, right?
Yes, they are.
So Mr. Whiffin's report contains information about the cell phone of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
It contains information about the location data in Mr. O'Keefe's phone, right?
Correct.
It contains information about the phone calls in Mr. O'Keefe's report, correct?
Correct.
It contains information about the temperature of the battery in the iPhone of Mr. O'Keefe, right?
Correct.
It has some timelines in that report, correct?
Correct.
And those timelines have very specific events that are represented in the data from Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone, correct?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, it's got location data and times that you have used in your report and PowerPoint presentation here, correct?
Correct.
When did you receive the report of Mr. Whiffin with regard to the cell phone of Mr. O'Keefe?
So I would have received his report sometime in January.
So, 4 months ago, you had the report of Mr. Whiffin with substantial information about the types of databases you can find in the iPhone, location data, health data, phone calls, and the timeline, among other information, correct?
Correct.
You had all that information.
Correct.
And you had GPS location data in that report regarding Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what an SQLite database is?
SQLite? Yes.
SQLite,
Yes.
And an SQLite database is one of the many databases that are contained within an iPhone, including Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone, correct?
Correct.
And you testified on your direct that you have general knowledge about cell phones, correct?
Correct.
And you say you've got certifications with regard to cell phones, correct?
Correct.
And your certifications include being able to read, Celebrite, and apply the Celebrite tool, correct?
Correct.
And you have certifications that allow you to apply and utilize magnet forensics, like, for example, the Raxium program, correct?
Correct.
And you've done that in your career. You've applied those tools before this case, correct?
Correct.
And you've applied those tools after your work in this case. You apply them pretty much frequently, correct?
Correct.
So the tools, the databases in an iPhone, and all the location data, etc., that was all information you had and you knew and had facile with back in January of 2025, correct?
Correct.
And you had access to the SQLite database because you had Mr. Whiffin's report, correct?
Correct. I had the report,
You
yes.
had the report. Do you recall on your direct testimony saying that one of the reasons that you did this supplemental report on May 8th was you got new information or more information about Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone?
Yes, correct.
You had that information through Mr. Whiffin's report back in January of 2025, didn't you, sir?
Correct. I had the report. I did not have the data.
Well, didn't Mr. Whiffin's report discuss location and in a pretty detailed manner?
Yes, he did.
And didn't he use GPS location data in that report?
Yes, he did.
And you had that in January 4 months ago, correct?
Correct.
And you read it 4 months ago.
Correct.
Yet you still submitted a report on May 8th in the middle of this trial, correct? a digital forensic analyst named Jessica Hyde?
I am familiar with the name, yes.
You know she's working on this case on behalf of the Commonwealth.
Yes, I think I have heard that in conversations.
Have you read any of her reports?
No, I have not.
So you're aware she's working on the case, but you're not aware of whether she's issued reports in this case.
Correct.
So you're not aware whether she has issued reports that mention about GPS location data, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever ask for her reports?
No, I did not.
Did anybody ever tell you or comment to you whether your analysis is consistent or inconsistent with the reports of Mr. Whiffen or Ms. Hyde?
No.
Did you watch their testimony in this trial?
No, I did not.
Did you learn of their testimony in this trial?
No, I did not.
Did anyone from law enforcement or any other aspect of the Commonwealth provide you with any summary of their testimony?
No, they did not.
But you had access to Mr. Whiffen's report with regard to his analysis and the data from Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone back in January of 2025, correct?
Correct.
Having read Mr. Whiffen's January 2025 report, you know that his report contains statements about movement and other activity of Mr. O'Keefe's phone after your time period in your original report of January 30th, 2025, correct?
No, not after the time period, no.
Let's take a look at that.
Sure.
Let's take a look at your January 30th, 2025 report. Well, we'll come back to that. I'll do that in an order that makes a little bit more logical sense. You've mentioned, and just to cover the foundational parts, that you're not the only employee of Aperture that's been hired to testify as a witness on behalf of the Commonwealth in this trial, correct?
Correct.
Your colleague, Judson Welcher, Dr. Judson Welcher, has also been retained by the Commonwealth through Aperture, correct?
That is correct.
Justin Welcher, Dr. Welcher, is a biomechanical engineer, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whether Dr. Welcher holds any professional certifications?
I do not know.
Does Dr. Welcher's expertise extend beyond your own?
It is a different discipline than my own, yes.
So it's a different discipline. So it could be horizontally extended, and it also can be vertically extended depending upon the subject matter?
Sure.
That's a fair statement?
Sure.
Your colleague, Dr. Welcher, who is an engineer, did opine on the timing of the TechStream event 1162-2 in his report of January 30th, 2025, correct?
Objection.
Is the objection sustained?
I'll reword it, Your Honor. Do you know whether Dr. Welcher opined on the timing of TechStream event 1162-2 in his January 30th, 2025 report?
Yes.
So you do know.
Yes.
What is the timing of the TechStream event 1162-2 in the January 30th report of Dr. Welcher, your colleague?
Objection.
So why don't I see you at sidebar on this?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Burgess. You're aware that Dr. Welcher created a PowerPoint presentation with regard to his work in January of 2025, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever discuss that work with Dr. Welcher that he was doing?
No, I did not.
Did you ever review any of his work at any point, including up to the point where you're sitting on the stand today?
I have reviewed the slides that are included in Mr. DeSogra's presentation.
Okay. In the slides that are included in Mr. DeSogra's report include, those slides you're referring to are the slides of Dr. Welcher, your colleague, correct?
Correct.
And the slides that are in Mr. DeSogra's report about Dr. Welcher that slide discusses the 1162.2 tech stream event, correct?
Correct.
So you have looked at, albeit through Mr. DeSogra, you have looked at the slide that Dr. Welcher had in his report regarding the tech stream event 1162.2, correct?
Correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I have this marked as the next exhibit for identification, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. May I present it to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. May I remain here for a few questions?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
if you could take a look at what has been marked for identification is AAA, and tell me, once you've had a fair opportunity to look at it, whether you recognize that slide.
Yes, I do recognize that slide.
And, sir, what do you recognize that slide as?
So it is a slide that states a number of times associated with tech stream event 1162.2, which would be the second event.
And did you consider this exhibit AAA in your preparation of a response to Mr. DeSogra's March 5th, 2025 presentation?
Yes, I did.
I offer this into evidence, Your Honor, AAA for identification.
Okay.
I'd like to put the whole report in.
Your Honor, I have no need to put the report's 143 pages.
So I'm going to let this in, and I haven't decided yet about the whole 143 pages. Okay?
Fair enough, Your Honor. And I re-offer it into evidence, Your Honor.
Yes.
188.
Could someone provide me with that 143 page today, please?
Sorry, what are you asking for?
For a copy for me of that 143 pages before we leave today.
Before we leave, we'll get it, Your Honor.
Thank you.
One way or another. Thank you.
Yes.
You can, please.
Hold on, was it marked?
It's 188.
What number?
188.
Thank you.
May I present it back to the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, you now have what is in evidence as Exhibit 188 for identification. I draw your attention, and this is the slide that you considered in responding to Mr. DeSogra, correct?
In response to Mr. DeSogra's analysis of this slide, yes, correct.
And this slide, to be clear, is a slide prepared by your colleague at Aperture, Dr. Judson Welcher, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Sir, could you please read the time that Dr. Welcher states for the when infotainment trigger 1162.2 occurred?
So that would be tech stream trigger, just for clarification, but yes, I can.
Well, let's go to that. You use the parlance text stream trigger. Dr. Welcher uses infotainment trigger, but it's 1162.2. You both use 1162.2, correct?
Correct, and I think that may be a misunderstanding of how he's worded it.
Well, Your Honor, I'd actually move to strike that about what Dr. Welcher. I'm just going to what the document says.
I'm just going to leave it, but go on.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the document says that the infotainment trigger 1162.2 occurred at approximately 12:31:38, correct?
Correct.
And that it ended at 12:31:43, correct?
Correct.
So we've got the trigger, according to Dr. Welcher, as of recently as January 30th, 2025, starting at 12:31:38, and ending at 12:31:43, correct?
Correct, according to the Lexus clock.
Right.
Yes.
So now let's go down to what says below. Per report from Ian Whiffen, O'Keefe's cell phone data showed, quote, most notably, all device lock events, including the final lock event at 12:32:09, were user initiated by the user pressing the side button briefly. You see that, sir?
I do.
And did I read that correctly?
You did, with the caveat, that's according to the iPhone clock.
Right, but in any event, that's what Dr. Welcher states on his slide, correct?
Correct.
Do you know, sir, that the iPhone data reported by Mr. Whiffen that you read, that Dr. Welcher references, do you know that report of Ian Whiffen says there was an end of a health event of 36 steps covering a distance of 84 feet that ended at 12:32:16, which is after 12:31:43?
Yes.
And you know that.
Yes, with the caveat, those clocks have not been adjusted.
But you know that there was a end of health event of 36 steps covering a distance of 84 feet that ended at 12:32:16, which is after 12:31:43, correct?
Correct.
Just stating the comparison. So now what I'd like to do is to move on with regard to the analysis. So, and Dr. Welcher wrote this, the slide he presented, it's dated January 30th of 2025, correct?
It's not dated here,
It's not dated,
but
but do you know that Dr. Welcher created a report of January 30th, 2025?
I do know he created a report.
Right,
Correct.
and that's the same date as your report, correct? Your
Correct.
first report.
Correct.
So you both submitted your reports on the same date. They're both dated the same at least, correct?
Yes, if they're both dated the same, yes.
Yes. Are you familiar with the concept of pocket state in iPhones?
I am familiar through Mr. Whiffen's report.
Okay. You said you've read Mr. Whiffen's report, correct?
Correct.
So you know that Mr. Whiffen states that there was a pocket state detected on the iPhone of Mr. O'Keefe at 12:33:14, correct?
Objection.
So the same, I'm going to strike it, do it the same way, Mr. Alessi, okay?
I will, Your Honor. Thank you. Are you aware of whether Mr. Whiffen has put in the report you read a timestamp for detecting pocket states of Mr. O'Keefe? Are you aware of that in the report at all?
I am aware of that in the report, yes.
Do you know when Mr. Whiffen has noted a pocket state detected of Mr. O'Keefe's phone? Do you know?
So, Mr. Alessi, why don't you show it to me?
That's what I was going to do. I will, Your Honor. And if we could put it, we've got it. That's already in evidence on the screen.
Okay.
It's already in evidence in screen.
So are you talking about Mr. Whiffen's report, or you?
Correct. The one. Well, you know what? I'm going to show him the report, Your Honor. I'll do it the way he suggests. Sir, do you recall the specific time that Mr. Whiffen has stated pocket states detected for the phone of Mr. O'Keefe?
No, I have not.
If I showed you a report of Mr. Whiffen, might that refresh your recollection as to when Mr. Whiffen has stated pocket state detected? Would that help?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sir, I'm going to endeavor to do that. Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
I'm going to show you what are 2 pages out of the report of Mr. Whiffen that you referenced, and we've been discussing about pocket state.
Sure.
And this one here, if you just read this line, because it's the heading, and then the next page, and tell me, sir, with reference to this entry right here, if you can, if that refreshes your recollection with regard to a column of pocket state with regard to the phone of Mr. and whether it refreshes your recollection on any comments Mr. Whiffen made about us.
Objection.
I'm going to see it sidebar for